Hello, and welcome, my friends. Welcome to another fabulous day in the art room. It's great to see you again. All right, of course, I am Mrs. O'Neill, your art teacher here. Today, we're going to be talking about something very special. So last week, my fifth graders, last art class that I posted up for you, we were learning about an art movement. We learned about pop art a little bit, that movement in history. There are many different, as you know, sections in art history, and some of them overlap. Some of them are happening at the same time, but we're going to individually learn about the different art movements, okay? So this movement is Surrealism that we're going to be talking about today. Some of you friends out there might remember I had, before our school year got interrupted last spring, I had talked to some of my fourth graders because this there used to be a version of this that was a fourth grade lesson. You might be like, oh, we've talked about Surrealism. This is going to be my Surrealism. Think of this as a Surrealism 2.0 class, because some people got this lesson last year and some people didn't, because like I said, we got interrupted halfway through our year before I could get this lesson out to everybody. Okay, so this is our Surrealism Lesson 2.0, so it's going to have more information than the other lesson did. I've updated things. Like I said, what I like about teaching is I can always update my lessons, add new things as I research them, as I find them, and make lessons work for our new standards of learning that we just got, yay, all right, this year. So we're going to be doing Surrealism today. Okay, so you might be wondering, what is Surrealism? Well, that's a wonderful question, okay? Surrealism is a movement in art history, all right, where it was right after World War I. I can't talk this morning. World War I. And a lot of people were saying, oh, you know what? We saw a lot of really sad things, death, destruction in World War I. It just feels so surreal. Surreal means more than real. So what that means, it can be good, it can be bad, negative, positive. So surreal, like a dream, right? It can be positive. Like I said, dreams can be positive. Dreams can be more like a nightmare. So Surrealism is more than real. Talking a little bit about how Surrealism got started. So it gets started after World War I. People are coming home from war, or they've just witnessed some of the sad things that have happened in the war, and they're saying, oh, like, this is so much. We couldn't believe this could ever happen. And then this psychologist has come out, and a psychologist is like a doctor of the mind. His name is Freud, right? And Freud is talking a lot in his, he's getting really famous for talking about how dreams in our unconscious mind, so what we're thinking in dreams, when we're sleeping, so the stuff that's all the way in the back of your mind, maybe stuff you don't even realize you're thinking about, right? He's talking about how that kind of affects us. So the artists of that time period said, what if we make art about dreams, okay, and about that kind of unconscious mind that we can't really access while we're awake? So that's what makes dreams kind of funky, right? Like, you can have things that happen in your dreams that you're like, that would never happen in real life. Like, that's like, all of a sudden my house is entirely made out of candy, and my neighbor is the gingerbread man. Things like that. Things that you're like, that could never happen. What is this? It's more than real, right? So we're going to be talking a little bit about that today. This is going to be similar to our pop art lesson, where this is more of a prompt than a step-by-step. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about researching surrealism, and we're also going to talk about, making possibilities for how you can make a work of surrealist art. So let's go ahead and start by talking about some of the surrealists that you can research. I've also linked down here in the description. I have linked, there's a wonderful video explaining surrealism that the Tate Museum has put up that I highly recommend. They do such a good job of explaining it, and it's like cute little cartoon. Who doesn't love watching a cartoon, right? So make sure you check that video out, because they do an awesome job talking a little bit about surrealism. So you're going to look at that. After you've looked at this video, look at that video. It's a short little cartoon video that explains everything. And then I've also linked the Kiddle, which is like the kid encyclopedia about surrealism that you can do a little research. And if you do any internet research, which I recommend if you have an adult to do, so if you have your adult with you, if you have your grown-up with you, you can do a little research on surrealism and on these artists I'm about to talk to you about. But if you don't have your adult with you, you might want to wait until you have an adult or grown-up present before you do any of the research part of it. Because remember, whenever we're navigating the internet, we need an adult with us to kind of help us navigate safely. So if you have your grown-up with you and they're able to kind of supervise, you guys can do a little bit of internet research on the movement of surrealism. Okay, so the big three that I wanted to teach you today, we're going to talk about Salvador Dali, okay? We're going to talk about Murray Oppenheim. We're going to talk about Rene Magritte, okay? So those are three artists that I highly recommend you look up, all right? Especially if you're like, I have never heard of them, I highly recommend you look them up because they are amazing, and we are going to talk a little bit about them today. So let's start with, we're going to talk about Mr. Dali, because when the piece of surrealism art that I think that you have probably seen, that most people can say that they've seen, is the melting clocks, right? And 5th grade, you guys, we've even talked about the melting clocks. If you've watched my earlier videos, if you watched the video about time, if you watch that video, we talk a little bit about the melting clocks. That's surrealist art, all right? So it looks like a dream, right? Here's some more. I like this one. It's got a boat that has the butterflies as the sails. I love that. These are awesome. These are like butterflies as windmills. This one's like a floating island. You'll see a lot of surrealist artists that do the dreamlike. They do a lot of like these islands kind of floating in the sky. There's this awesome elephant with the instrument for a head. There's the door just in the middle of the beach. This one is Magritte, all right? Rene Magritte, and he's got the person who, instead of having a face, he's got like an apple right there, which is pretty cool. So you're getting the idea. It's kind of that dreamlike kind of look. That wasn't the only kind of surrealism, though. They explored surrealism in two different main ways. So they would do these dreamlike paintings that, like I just showed you, but they'd also do something called automatism, right? So automatism is when they would actually just put a piece of paper down and they would focus on something else and they would draw without really thinking about what they were drawing. All right, so that's automatism. For this project, we're going to focus a little bit more on the dreamlike quality paintings that these artists would do. But that's another fun thing in your spare time if you want to try some automatism. Just do something else, maybe like watch something, watch some YouTube videos or something, and just draw to the side without thinking about it and kind of look at what your doodles end up looking like when you're done. All right, so that's automatism. That's kind of also, they were trying to get to that idea of, oh, if you just doodle without thinking about it, what comes out of your brain if you're just doodling. All right, and then, you know, this dreamlike quality, like I said, that's what we're going to kind of focus on. I also want to show you Murray Oppenheim. She would do sculptures, so surrealism isn't just paintings, it can also be sculptures. All right, so she did this really famous one. I love it. It's a teacup covered in fur. All right, so the cup, the plate, and the spoon, this is the spoon right here, are all covered in fur, which you might be thinking that is absurd. Well, that's the point, right? She wanted it to be something that wouldn't happen in real life, right? And I love how she really liked that when people looked at this work of art, they looked at this sculpture where she had wrapped this teacup in fur. It looks kind of like an animal. It looked like a little animal instead of an object, and people couldn't help but picture, like I'm sure you can't help but picture when you're looking at this, having to try to drink out of it and like tasting the like wet fur would be bleh, no, right? I kind of like how that she was trying to get our minds to kind of be like, oh, like that would not be great to drink out of, right? So more than real, that's surrealism. So definitely look up these three artists if you're with your grown-up, and you can look at the video that I've got linked down there, because that's a really good video. Check that out because they explain things really well. They do an awesome job. And then also look at the Kiddle, the Kid Encyclopedia from Kiddle, and take a look at that because that's also got a lot of really great artists that you can look at. But definitely check out Salvador Dali, Murray Oppenheim, and Rene Magritte. If you're like, I don't know how to search those, what you can do is you can pause the video. You can look behind me and check out what they're spelled as. And if you start typing that in a search engine, it'll fill it in for you. And like I said, get your adult with you when you're doing any internet research. Okay, let's talk about what we're gonna make. Okay, so we talk a little bit about surrealism. We talk about what the artists were trying to do. They were trying to get the viewer to be thinking about dreams and the unconscious mind, and kind of tap into that a little bit. Just like any art movement, just like how we talked about in the pop art movement, just like any new form of art, there were always going to be people that when this group of artists who started doing surrealism started out, other people were like, oh, that's not art. There's always going to be those people that have a hard time adjusting to a new movement, right? So they did have people that were being critics that were saying, oh, like that's not good art, da, da. But like as things go on, now we have surrealism as a huge movement that we learn about in art history, where all these artists were like, well, why can't I make something that's impossible? Like, why can't I make pictures that look like dreams, right? So what you're going to do today, right, is I would like for you to get a piece of paper, and I want you to use your imagination to create a picture that looks so absurd, so surreal, more than real life. I want it to look like a dream. It doesn't have to be an actual dream that you've had. Like, this is not an actual dream that I've had. I actually started by taking a magazine. I found a picture that I wanted to cut out, so I cut out part of the picture. So this can also be a collage if you have any magazines. Make sure that if you want to cut up a magazine, make sure you ask whoever the magazine belongs to. So if it doesn't belong to you, make sure that you ask that person if it's okay to cut up their magazine, okay? All right, so I started by cutting out this image from a magazine, gluing it down, drawing the tiger, all right? And then I started saying, oh, what if the tiger's in a desert? Instead of a pool of water, there's a big eyeball down here. I've got a paintbrush that's still painting the person, and a giant palette in the sky where the clouds are. I was like, what if there's a tree that instead of leaves, it has hats all over it? And what if I've got just a planet just up there, right where we can see it? So you get the idea. It's very absurd. It's very crazy looking. So draw it, and if you have anything to color in with where you're at, remember the motto of the art room this year is use what you got. So if you have any crayons, colored pencils, paint, anything like that, you can color that in afterwards. But even if it's just a drawing, I'd love to see your beautiful, beautiful drawings of your surrealist art. Okay, so be sure if you have any questions, and you're at the school that has the packet that I sent out with the little pink slip on it, right? That little pink slip has all the information of how you can get to my office hours, so you can ask me questions. If not, you can always email it to me, so email me any questions you have, and you can find my email by just typing in my name when you're on your school's email. If you start typing in my name, it'll fill it in for you, all right? So email me any questions you might have, and I can't wait to see your works of art. I hope you have a fun time researching surrealism. I love this movement in art because it's so fun and freeing, and you can do a lot with it, with these dreams and these ideas of that kind of unconscious mind, things that we're like not thinking about in the front of our brain, things that are absurd that couldn't happen in real life. Okay, I hope you guys have fun, and I will see you next week. All right, bye.